Cassidy, and today we're going to go through how to make a traditional German cucumber salad or Gurkensalat. And this is one of my favorite recipes to make because it's simple, it's quick, and also it's really healthy. There's actually two different ways you can make this recipe. One includes using sour cream and one is without sour cream. And the only real difference is about where the recipe is from in Germany. Maybe it's from the north or the south. And I like doing it without the sour cream because it makes it a little bit healthier. It makes it non-dairy and vegan. So that's the one we're going to learn today, but you're welcome to look up another recipe online with sour cream if you want to try it with that as well someday. So the first thing we want to do whenever we start cooking is to get mise en place set up. And that's actually a French word, but we're going to borrow it today for our German cooking lesson. And basically that just means to get everything in its place. So you'll want to read through the recipe that's in the blog one time, all the way through all of the steps, all the ingredients, and you'll want to gather everything that you're going to need for the recipe from your utensils, your cutting board, the bowl you're going to put the Gurkensalat in, and all of your ingredients into one place so that you know you have everything ready before you even start cooking. And it's really important to do this for every recipe so that you don't have to stop midway through and run to the store, or you're caught off guard when you realize you don't have enough eggs, anything like that. And so I've already had this all set up. You'll see we have the main point of our recipe, 3 big large cucumbers, of course Gurken. We've got some baby dill, which is actually an optional part of the recipe. If you like the flavor of dill, you can add it in, or if you're not a fan, you can always leave it out. Vegetable oil, which is going to be the base of our dressing for the salad, and we're going to learn how to emulsify a vinaigrette a little bit later in the video as well. The vinegar to also go in the dressing. We've got some chopped onions as a spice to go in the dressing, and then the other 3 main components of the dressing are the black pepper, the salt, and the sugar to keep it sweet. Everything else you see on the table in front of us is just going to be our utensils, the bowl we're going to mix the vinaigrette in, and the bowl we're going to put our cucumber salad directly into. So now that we have our mise en place, the next thing that we want to do is if we have any long hair like me, we're going to put it up in a ponytail so that it's out of our way while we're cooking, and we're going to wash our hands. And it's really important, even when there's not a virus going around, that we wash our hands before we start touching any of our ingredients, and then we wash our vegetables also before we start cooking. And during our cooking, if there's any time that we touch our face or our hair, we want to wash our hands again too, just to get those germs off of them. So let's go do that. Alright, so now that our hands are clean and our hair is up, let's get started. Another variation of this recipe is to peel the cucumbers before you slice them. I like the skin of cucumbers, so I'm going to leave it on, but if you don't like the skin of cucumbers, go ahead and skin it before we start cutting. Now that our cucumbers are nice and washed, we're going to just cut off the ends of each side, because that part we don't want to eat. And we're going to toss it into our nice little trash bin right here. You can use a paper towel, a Kroger bag, any type of plastic bag that you have laying around, or just a little bowl so that you keep all of your trash together and you make less of a mess while you're cooking. Because cooking might be fun, but the cleanup afterwards, not so much. So we're going to minimize our cleanup as much as we can. And then when you're cutting the cucumbers, what you want to make sure of is being very, very careful with the knife, but also cutting very, very thin slices of cucumber. That's sort of the hallmark of this recipe, is thinly sliced cucumbers. I'm going to get one really good one and try to show you guys in the camera. So that's about the thickness that we're looking for in each and every cucumber. If some are a little bigger and some are a little smaller, it's not that big of a deal, but really, really try to get all of the cucumbers consistently sliced, just like this. And like I said, we have this here because this is just going to be the bowl that we put our salad into. I go ahead and put it straight into a Tupperware container because I know I'm not going to eat it all in one sitting, and also it makes it a lot more fun later when we get to shake the dressing on it. You can just shake it right in the bowl. So that's where all of our cucumbers are going to go, and we're just going to keep cutting and cutting and cutting, again being very careful with the knife or having our parents handle the knife if we're not comfortable or old enough to use the knife just yet. So now that we're on our last cucumber of cutting, I wanted to go through a few vocabulary words with you for the German language and cooking in German. So, as you guessed earlier, Gurkensalat is cucumber, die Gurke, and Salat, salad. And this object that we're using to cut our Gurke is called a Messer. And the motion when you cut something in German, the verb, is called schneiden. Kind of like if you ever knew anybody with the last name Schneider, they probably were a cutter or a butcher of some kind, and that's where that surname comes from. So, ich schneide die Gurke would be a sentence that you could say to say, I'm cutting the cucumber. And if you wanted to make it a little bit of a longer, more complicated sentence, you could say, ich schneide die Gurke mit einem Messer. I'm cutting the cucumber with a knife. And there you go. Those are 2 German sentences you can use to explain your cooking, your kochen in German. And even though this recipe doesn't actually involve any stovetop or actual cooking, it's just putting ingredients together, that's still a type of cooking. So that is your sentence for the day. Hopefully you guys like the German language a little bit, maybe even more after you taste this delicious cucumber salad once we're finished with it. That's a lot of cucumbers. So the next thing we have to do is make our vinaigrette dressing. And you've probably had a vinaigrette on a salad before, but you might not have ever asked yourself what exactly a vinaigrette is or what the name means. A vinaigrette is a combination of an oil and a vinegar. And usually oil and vinegars don't get along too well. So when we start to mix the oil and the vinegar, we have to stir really, really, really hard to do what's called emulsify the vinegar and the oil together. It just means blending or combining them properly. Otherwise, the oil and the vinegar aren't going to mix well, and you're going to see little oil bubbles inside the vinegar. So we need 3 teaspoons of each. It's what's called an equal part recipe, just meaning that you put the same amount of each side of the recipe. 3 teaspoons of vegetable oil or any neutral flavored oil that you have on hand, canola, olive oil, anything like that, and 3 teaspoons of vinegar. I always like to hold the teaspoon or whatever measuring unit I'm using over the cup that I'm mixing in, just in case anything spills out, especially when we're using big bottles like we are right now. My vinegar, for example, really big. I use vinegar in a lot of different things, not just cooking, but also cleaning. So I always buy the biggest thing of vinegar there is. But right now that seems a little silly when I'm having to pour it on here. So get our teaspoon back out. Okay. And we're just going to pour the vinegar nice and slowly. 1, 2, 3. All right, and this is where we've got to stir really, really hard, all right? So you see how the oil and the vinegar are 2 separate consistencies right now. And like I said, that's because oil and the vinegar, they just don't get along too well. It's like when you and one of your siblings or when you and your parents are in a fight. So we want to stir it all together. Think of this as like forgiving your sibling or your parent, or having them forgive you for whatever you might have done. We just have to stir really, 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 really hard, but really keep being careful and making sure everything stays in our cup. The oil and the vinegar are combined into one substance. And basically we're just going to do 1 teaspoon, or half a teaspoon, excuse me. We're going to do half a teaspoon of each of the spices that we're adding, and then we're going to cut up the dill last. So, some chopped onion. Find your half a teaspoon measurer. There we go. And again, hold it over the cup just in case anything spills out. It can just drop right on in. And the onions is probably something also, if you don't like onions too much, you could leave out of the recipe. That's kind of the wonderful thing about cooking, is that except for the major ingredients, the main ingredients that you absolutely have to have, you can take and leave. You can take out what you don't want, and you can kind of add in things that you do like. So if there's another type of spice that you know you love, you can maybe try adding that spice to this recipe as well. But first, let's try to make it this way and see just how we like it. And it's okay that we're not mixing after every individual spice. The spices aren't as tough as the oil and the vinegar are to stir together. So that's all the spices that we're going to add. Ooh, we have to have the sugar. Ooh. The sugar is just going to kind of tone down the taste of the vinegar a little bit, make it a little bit sweeter, a little more palatable. And there we go, just put the spoon of sugar right in there. And sugar. It's a good thing I had my mise en place here all set, otherwise I would have forgotten the sugar. And again, stir it all together. So for our dill, what we kind of want to do is just pluck the pieces of dill off of the stems. We don't want to necessarily have stems in our recipe. So go ahead and just take piece by piece, kind of break off each branch, and the stems can go in our little trash bowl or bin or bag or whatever you're using to collect your trash. And we're just chopping the dill up a little bit finer than what it was on the branch, just to make sure we don't get too big of chunks of dill in our mouth while we're eating the cucumber salad later. Alright, and now we want to just scoop it, maybe with our hands, into our vinaigrette dressing that we made from scratch. Alright, and if we don't get everything in there, that's okay. Dill's a pretty sticky herb. It's going to stick to the cutting board a little bit. Alright, and there we go. That is our delicious vinaigrette. We're just going to pour this all over our cucumber salad. Got a nice plump of dill there. And now we're going to shake it up. So this part's pretty important because right now the vinaigrette has probably touched 3 of the cucumbers, and we want to make sure that we have it touching all of the cucumbers. So we want to taste the delicious vinaigrette that we worked so hard on making from scratch. So I'm going to put the lid on my bowl, make sure it's all the way closed. Alright, and then we're going to shake. Our cucumber salad all mixed together with our homemade vinaigrette dressing. Mix it up just a little bit more, make sure all the cucumbers in there have gotten a dose of the dressing. And again, like I said, with cooking, you have the freedom to do pretty much anything that you want. So if you decide this isn't enough dressing, you can just whip up a quick batch of a little bit more. Maybe alter the measurements a little bit so that it's just enough of what you need, or just double it. That's always really easy. You guys ready to taste what it tastes like? Amazing. Wunderbar, wonderful in German. Lecker, delicious, gesund, healthy, einfach, easy. All of these words describe this awesome recipe that we just made together in what, less than 20 minutes? So cutting the cucumbers is probably the most time consuming, but everything else goes really quickly. It's a great, nice, healthy, fresh recipe, especially now that we're getting into the warm summer months. If you're gonna eat outside with your family, or if you just want a quick snack, keep it in the refrigerator, keep it cool, keep it tasty, and eat it whenever you're hungry. So I hope you guys enjoyed making our Gurkensalat, our traditional German cucumber salad today.